The caucus in Tshwane is resolute. The Democratic Alliance and the Federal Executive is resolute on this matter. We stand united behind Solim Simanga, and we will not cave to the demands of the ANC and the EFF in their collaboration together in wanting to steal back the municipality. I believe, ladies and gentlemen, should the EFF make a decision to say they will continue their formalization of their coalition with the ANC, then I think they must publicly say so. They must show the people of South Africa that for them, this is a homecoming revolution, that it's an opportunity for them to work together with the ANC. We will certainly not stand for it. And I really believe that we must continue the work that we are doing there. We stand, ladies and gentlemen, as a party of principle. The DA-led coalition in Tshwane, with all the coalition partners, will continue to stand for non-racialism. We oppose corruption. We'll continue to fight that there be investments so that people can find work and to ensure that our citizens are safe. And therefore, we will not kowtow to this EFF-ANC coalition. And if the EFF, through their motion tomorrow, believe that the ANC should be brought back via the back door, it would be their decision to make, not something that we will endorse or support. But we'd call upon South Africans to be conscious of the decisions of the new realignment that is taking place. That in fact a vote for the ANC will then effectively be a vote for the EFF, and a vote for the EFF is a vote for the ANC. History has shown that when parties stand for principle, that over the long run South Africans recognize that. Therefore tomorrow we will also be gathering outside Tshwane with many South Africans who will stand together united for those values that say this is what this coalition is built on. This is what this coalition is delivering. And we call upon, as tomorrow in Nelson Mandela Bay, already the court action will continue there. We want tomorrow in Tshwane for people to stand united to say we will not allow this lack of judgment, these decisions that in fact will hand the government back to the ANC, EFF, that we will not stand up for it. And therefore invite as many people to Tshwane as possible tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, you can recall, our country has, the EFF has made many decisions before, and we've stood against. They were before supporting Jacob Zuma, now they are not, and wanted to remove him. They before, we've shown that when we stood and we said we want to support the public protector, that was the same. In the same way as now, even the decisions around the VBS, we stood on principle. Therefore, I think even now this is a moment, and I want to urge them not to make the same decisions again, to realize that history must show that where we've been working, where we've been delivering, we must continue to do so. And therefore, the candidate that is here, and certainly even with the coalition partners, we will continue to serve the people of Nelson Mandela Bay. For if tomorrow it so happens that the DA-led coalition is removed, just the DA-led coalition that is removed. It's clean government, it's investment, it's ensuring that the resources of the people are spent on the people. We have to ensure that South Africans know that even at this point in time, this coalition, is the only one that stands in opposition to the ANC. I can't now begin to tell what the difference between this new coalition that's been formed, except a unity behind going out and saying, we will now loot the resources of the state. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a crucial, crucial moment. And as I say, where we began to show the change in municipalities, we will continue to do so. There's been a question that someone raised to say, is Solim Simanga going to now withdraw as premier candidate? One of the decisions that Federal Executive took was that we stand behind him. The elections will take place in 2019. We saw how the ANC used its might in the Eastern Cape, where they used the provincial government to preside over an illegal meeting to root out the mayor there. We are not going to allow the same to happen here in Gauteng. And I want to urge today that this is an opportunity for all of us as South Africans to make a choice that is informed about where we stand as a people, whether we want non-racialism to thrive, whether we want to build one South Africa for all, whether we want governments that are clean, whether we want governments that deliver, that we want to ensure that coalitions are focused on the people, not on selfish and narrow interests, or that we want to say, let us support this coalition of corruption, led and championed really by the EFF and the ANC. This is the fundamental choice. And the people of South Africa are not foolish enough not to see these things. The people of this country, we're beginning to see the difference and the change that is coming, and I believe that we want to continue that change. And so Federal Executive today in its meeting affirmed that position. We will continue to work with coalitions. The future of South Africa is dependent on the success of those coalitions, and ultimately we will not hide back, we will continue to fight. And it's within that context that we felt it was important to give direction as the Federal Executive. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm now going to take a round of questions. Let me ask, as usual, that you name yourself and the media house which we represent, and we'll take 10 questions to start with.
10?
Yes.
We have 6 questions.
Where do you think you are going to go? There aren't 10 journalists.
All right, let's do the 1, 2, 3 with Claudia at the back.
Start.
We'll start 1, 2, 3, and Claudia at the back.
From ANC. If you are saying that the ANC is coming through to governance through the back door, then since there is no clear outright winner in this battle, were you not elected through the back door yourself? Because there was a deal that was struck between you and the economic freedom fighters, whom you say today is trying to bring back maladministration and corruption through the ANC. Then why would you still be voting with people who are seemingly in bed with corruption and maladministration? Then the last question would be, why are you screaming and barking?
No, let's pick our terms correctly, sir. I don't scream, neither do I bark.
Why are you now crying that the EFF...
Neither do I do that.
Why are you now crying that the EFF is no longer voting with you, since they were not formally in any coalition and said they would vote on an issue-to-issue basis with you? Are they now not changing their mind and doing just that they said in your agreement with them? Thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
Have you asked to meet with the leaders of the EFF on this issue? And they said they were open to this, particularly around whichever candidate that the EFF will feel from sorting them out. Do you ever regret also ever sitting down and agreeing to take this support of the EFF? Because they seem to be a serious problem in this DA-led coalition government. Do you ever regret that? This is my last question. So, I mean, if you won't be fielding any candidate, then it's pretty clear that Solinsinama is out tomorrow as mayor. Because the EFF said if you're not fielding somebody else, they will they're open to vote with the ANC. So, are you ready to be in opposition in time?
Claudia?
Claudia from Business Day. Just with regards to the EFF as well, you work with the party also essentially provides this its votes in Johannesburg as well as in smaller municipalities such as in Limpopo, in Morimori and Philizimbi. Did FedEx discuss what could possibly happen in those municipalities? I know Julius Malema said that Rishalba is safe in terms of what the EFF wants, but have you discussed it and how will you navigate this? Because you have come out very strongly equating the EFF with the ANC in this briefing. And then just my question with regard to the meeting that we'll have with the coalition party leaders. What message is the DA taking to that meeting? Do you want the UDM to officially be removed from the coalition?
We'll take the last question there.
Okay, my name is Ntebo. I'm with the SABC. What would you say, Mr. Maimane, to those who are saying you're a bedrock? Because at some point you benefited from the coalition of the parties, and it seems now if those parties decide to work with other parties, it seems a problem for you. And did FedEx really discuss coalition politics in South Africa? Do you really think this is what the DA should be engaged in? Because clearly it seems coalition politics in South Africa are not working because they are based on sentiment, they are based on preference, they are based on race. Do they really work?
Thanks. Can I respond to a few? Firstly, Samkelo, I want to clarify a few points that maybe you... In 2016, EFF councillors in Mokhale voted with the ANC. Those councillors were dismissed. What's changed? The only thing I can assume has changed is that Jacob Zuma was removed and a faction favorable to the EFF has now got back into government. It's the only thing I can think has changed. You make a very important point about we were never in coalition. That's crucial to note that we've always worked well in partnership with parties. In fact, we consulted extensively with the EFF on many issues. But now that we head towards this election and they feel they must get back with the ANC, then they must be willing to say that to South Africans. Someone raises this question about whether we benefited or not, or we're bad losers. No, we're not the ones that are to government. Andile Lungisa has a criminal conviction against him. That's what's now being returned in Nelson Mandela Bay. So do I feel a loss? No. I feel the people of Nelson Mandela Bay are going to lose. That's what's difficult. When we've gone issue by issue, we've negotiated and we've spoken. Even on this issue, our provincial leader here has written, we've made contact with the EFF, and certainly will engage, because I think, to your question, Clement, coalitions are the future of South Africa. In some way or another, we've had a history of coalitions. The ANC is a coalition of some sort. They are the future. Why are they the future? Because we don't want a South Africa where we have a one-party dominant state. If you have a one-party dominance, here's what's going to happen. You will have state capture on a much bigger grand scale. Because if political parties don't believe that they're accountable to anybody, they end up protecting Jacob Zuma because they can use majoritarianism. South Africans must recognize the fact that we never want to find ourselves in a situation where a party can govern with absolute arrogance, absolute lack of accountability, and ultimately can loot resources, and South Africans are sitting at home getting poorer, life getting harder, and nobody is being able to say to them, we will hold this party accountable. So when they lost the metros, they then went ahead and removed Jacob Zuma. Because if you asked Mr. Zuma himself, why did they remove him? The ANC can't tell him. They removed him because they lost electoral power. And come 2019, if South Africans want an economy that is growing, that creates work, no corruption, they must recognize that their power lies in their vote. Coalitions work. I can tell you that today, when you look at Tshwane, it's been a coalition between multiple parties. Freedom Front Plus, ACDP, the Congress of the People, the Democratic Alliance, and other parties. So it works. Just because you have a rogue councillor in Nelson Mandela Bay who leads the UDM doesn't mean that coalitions don't work. This notion that coalitions are unstable is wrong. Because quite frankly, they work. The parties that have stayed together have stayed together. What is the job of coalitions in government? They are to deliver services to the people, pass budgets. That has been happening. And therefore, I think we should never find ourselves telling South Africans that coalitions don't work. They do. And I will always fight for them because I think they're the future. So long as you coalesce with the right things. You don't coalesce on race. Because if you coalesce on race and say, these are black parties, these are white parties, then we don't have a basis for democracy. So long as you don't, we must not coalesce around patronage, we must coalesce around the people. And so if it's a patronage coalition, it will always lead to corruption, because you say, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. And you create an environment upon which you set up the mechanism to loot. Must focus on the people. We must agree on those things. That's what coalitions do, and that's where they've worked. So if you say we've requested a meeting, we have, and I'm open. We can have a discussion. This is another issue that I think we can discuss. As far as other municipalities across the country, we are committed to governing for the people. We resolved today as federal executive that we are not going to abandon citizens. If another party or the coalition of the NCFF want to come back, we will continue to fight for the citizens. That's what brought us into government. That's what we will continue in government. And therefore, we are not going to shy away from that. So even I hear somebody here says, but hey, Mashaba is this one. On what basis? You say, oh, but Mashaba is good, this one is not good. There's no basis for that. These are DA governments that have been working. And therefore, it's the same for Mashaba, it's the same for Msimanga, it's the same for Trolip. They have a mandate from the DA, and they'll continue to serve the people. We are not here to serve political parties. We are here to serve citizens. Because we are not a patronage-driven organization. We're a people-driven that serves the people. We humble ourselves to say we will serve the people. And if while you are doing that job, people feel that if you've not stolen money, you still stand for all citizens, then that's not good enough for them, and they say, let's bring back people who are stealing money. That's their decision, and they must tell the people that that's what they want. And all right, isn't that? I'm not a bad loser. We've not lost. We win here. We win. Why? We've shown the people of South Africa that in 2 years you can turn around municipalities. We've shown the people of South Africa the net investment in Tshwane has doubled by 100%. We're getting ready there to where we found corruption, we've turned it around so that we deliver for the people. Where we found there was lavish lifestyles that were put by the previous administration, we sold the mayoral house so that we can build houses for poor South Africans. When we got to Joburg and clinics were not open over weekends, we extended the opening of those clinics. When we got to Nelson Mandela Bay and discovered citizens were vulnerable to crime, we established the Metro Police, we established the bus service there. These are but some of the highlights. Have we worked day in, day out to serve the people thanks to the partnership of the coalition parties who have stayed? We have done that. And if someone feels that they must remove them and go back to the ANC, who before, their track record speaks for themselves. In Joburg, it's 16 billion rands of corruption. That's a track record. You don't build your reputation by what you are going to do. We look at what you've done, and when we see what the ANC has done, we realize what is done. Are we losing? No. We are not in office for our own jackets. We're in office for the people. So who is going to be losing here? Is the people. That's why today we stand in this place, and we must safeguard that issue. So, does the DA discuss coalitions? Of course we do, because we want to work with all South Africans. We'll continue to work for coalitions. We'll continue to do that because for the reasons I've outlined. But I certainly, I'm not sitting here anxious. I'm sitting here recognizing the fact that we are standing on the side of the people, and we'll continue to do so.
But sometimes, Mr. McMahon,
Sorry, can the leader finish all the questions?
No, I'm done.
No, there was a question here on mental persuasion.
Oh, if the EFF, if they said they're open to persuasion, I think their condition, if their condition is to say we must put another candidate, then they must tell me what has Solim Simanga done wrong. I think the question we should ask is, when a mayor says, we believe there's something wrong with this contract, we have reason to investigate the city manager. Investigate. Suddenly it triggers motions of no confidence. Why? Tell me what Mayor Msimanga has done wrong, I can deal with the issue. But investigating corruption, and that's a sin that must have him removed. Are we ready to be in opposition? Of course. We'll do whatever. We're not in government for our own jackets. We're in government for the people. That's why we fight. That's why we're here. So as far as persuasions, we can have a discussion about it. Let's take one last one.
Okay. 3 more questions and then we close. Can you take yours quick?
No, I was saying the problem is these are two parties. You say you're ready to coalesce with anyone. But I mean, these are parties that have got different principles. For instance, the DA is seen by many as a liberal organization. The EFF is seen as a party that is an ultra-left. I mean, people there are ultra-left. So how then do we reconcile? How do we reconcile? Because in many cases that has been an issue.
Okay.
3 hands this side. This side.
My name is Moses Moy from the Inner City Gazette. The ANC on Sunday came out and said these fat and set arrangements across the metros are not working, and they're calling for fresh elections. Is the DA ready for elections across these problematic metros?
A hand and then I'll close with you. Okay.
From Nedbank Centre. So Mr. Malema earlier this week said that the Athol Trollip was arrogant in his leadership and that this was the same case in Swan. In other words, the DA has not consulted the coalition parties properly when making decisions, and that Herman Mashaba is a better fit for leadership because he actually listens to what the other parties say. Do you think that this has been the case, that the DA has led without listening to coalition parties, and to what extent can you compromise in that way?
Can we finish with you? Can I come to?
Your leader, do you think that there is a corruption, there is a relationship of you spread my back, I spread yours, and corruption between Dr. Mokete Musola, the city manager of Tshwane, and the economic freedom fighters whom are defending him? Because it's them who are against his suspension in council in the city of Tshwane. And the ANC later on changed its mind and defended Dr. Mokete Musola. Is there a relationship of corruption between the two? Thank you.
Last question.
Sebastian Moto from Jacaranda FM. Mr. Maimani, what do you think that Mr. Mashaba is doing differently than what Mr. Nsimang and Athol Trollip?
Right. Let me just deal with some of those questions. Ntebo, first of all, coalitions are a global phenomenon. South Africa is not unique when it comes to coalitions. They're part of the global landscape and all of that. I raised earlier to say the ANC is a coalition of some sort. I don't know where the ideological alignment is between the SACP and some of the members of the ANC. For example, I think coalitions work, especially where there are differences. Because where there are differences, you are not competing for the same votes. You are actually, the only commitment in that basis is a program of action. Now here with me, we're not in coalition with the EFF, so I can't speak, but I can speak about the coalition agreement that was signed by these parties. The principles in here are not ideological. Local government is heavily regulated. Local government says to you, are you going to deliver basic services? Are you going to make sure people find work? Are you going to eradicate corruption? Are you going to ensure that the best people are working in the municipality? All of those questions. And you stand for non-racialism. These are terms that were put in this coalition agreement. They don't have to depend on ideology. They depend on people sticking to an agreement. The reason we have a problem with Councillor Boban, it's not an ideological question. Is that he was in coalition with Andile Lungisa. He was voting with the ANC. So that's not a coalition. That's violating a principle. So again, Ntebo, I think it's important to note the fact that when you run coalition governments, you should always consciously say to yourself, we deliver for the people, we focus on the people. And local government is regulated. It gives you a government program. And even in Gauteng, if you were to form a coalition government, it will always be, what is the program for delivery? Are you going to create work for people? Are you going to deliver for people and make sure citizens are safe? Make sure that, in fact, you can ensure that, the work that needs to be done in the delivery of basic services to the people is being done. That's the only question that should be on the table. You asked me the question about fresh elections. I think it's a gimmick. If you have a need for fresh elections, why don't we ask Ekurhuleni to also have fresh elections? Or is that because that's an ANC thing? They are also in a coalition there. Why not fresh elections there? You know where we need fresh elections? Is in places like Lesedi, where they've been finding us against municipalities in the city, where sewage is running down the roads. How do we rob the dignity of our people? I think it's a complete misnomer where delivery is taking place, where corruption is being exposed. They know that these investigations are going to come close to them. So now we need fresh elections. No, we don't. We need accountability. That's what we need. Not fresh elections. Ndebu, you are incorrect when you say they're problematic. How? It's incorrect to say coalitions are problematic. These municipalities are not problematic. Things have been working in Joburg. They've been working in Tshwane. Delivery is taking place. Corruption has been fought against. And in the parties that have remained and stuck to the agreement, we've been working well together. Just because in a council meeting there might be a point of disagreement doesn't mean that's problematic. It's good. It's a democracy. It's vibrant. But is the work being done? That's the question. A couple of weeks ago, I think we did a statement that demonstrated with all the other opposition parties how these municipalities are turning. And if you like, I can send you the full dossier of where municipalities are turning around and delivering. That is working. Just because I have a disagreement with Mongameli Bobane in Nelson Mandela Bay and he behaves in a way in council, doesn't mean the coalition isn't working. It just means I have a problematic individual. But is Nelson Mandela Bay turning the corner? Yes, it is. This weekend in Nelson Mandela Bay, one of the biggest investments that have been attracted back into the municipality through an Ironman competition are coming through there, attracting tourists, making sure this is a destination that South Africans can enjoy and we can be on the international stage. That's happening. This is a question that's important. I don't know what the definition of arrogance is, but let me tell you what my definition of it is. Arrogance is going to another party and saying to them, we've decided today that your mayor was doing a job. It's not one we like. We want another one. So you see, when you adopt that arrogant posture to be able to go tell another party that you think this should be their candidate, like you lead all the parties, how does that work? Our party has listened to the people. But let me also say, you can't sacrifice your principles. You cannot. Coalitions don't work. When you sacrifice your principles, then you might as well say you are just one party. That's a merger. But coalitions say, I stick to my principles, because our principles are important. So really, we are not going to be some puppets here to that part. We are here to work for the people. And if the UDM feel that they must find themselves in that position where at 2% they can be, who do you think is going to be dictating the shots in Nelson Mandela Bay? You have a mayor who's only got 2%. Who is he going to tell? What agenda is going to be driven there? So if you want to know what puppetry is, look there.
Peter, I think if I can add to your response, I think one thing that we keep forgetting is when Herman was put as a mayoral candidate for Joburg, EFF didn't want him. And today they've turned around and they're saying he's a guy to work with. So there's no way you can have a party that is going to dictate to us like that. Our candidates are our candidates. That's who we put out and told the people that these are the people that are going to be leading the municipalities.
Sibahle, you asked me the question, what is Mashaba doing differently to Msimang? You know, this question of consultation, we've been consulting with everybody. Consultation has taken place, we speak, because that's how coalitions have worked. How do you think budgets got passed? They got passed because there was consultation. And yes, it's hard, but it has to be done. So that work has been done. So to make a suggestion that suddenly one mayor was doing something uniquely different, I don't think it's right. As the DA, we are very deliberate about saying on the ground, how do we work with people? The protocol is the same. We consult with the parties. In fact, right up until this council meeting, where the municipal manager was going to be investigated, there was still consultation with the other parties. And we can produce evidence to that effect. Let someone produce evidence contrary to say we never consulted with them. They didn't know about the council meeting, or they didn't know what the council meeting was about. I can disprove that fact because there's evidence to that thing. So I think we mustn't also find ourselves in discussions about consultation, etc. We should ask the simple question, and I want to close this conference with just that statement. What we are finding here is whether the choice between saying, has there been clean government? Has there been delivery? Has there been a coalition that works for one South Africa for all, that stands for all the people? Or is there a new coalition of corruption being set up? That's the choice. That's what people have to choose. It's what realigns politics. It's whether we're going to put patronage ahead of the people. That's the choice. That's the simple question. That this one phoned this one and didn't is a separate matter. I think those are the big decisions. Because to this day, if someone is doing their job and investigating corruption, and that means they must face a motion of no confidence, well, I say to the people of South Africa, we will do our jobs, we will continue to do that, and faced with the same option, we would never want to hide allegations, we will investigate. The ANC raised the same allegations, now they flip-flop and say, no, now they oppose the mayor in the investigation. How? How do you trust parties that on one day say, investigate, investigate, when you do, they say, now we support it? What inconsistencies are there? It tells you that these are people that cannot be trusted with the resources of the masses. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please enjoy your afternoon.
Of course. Mine, and